Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to the District Update for Friday, December the 11th, 2020. I'm Anita Foster, coming to you from Duff Elementary in the music room, decked out for the holidays by our music instructor, Josh Lewis. We have some very important topics to discuss today in our District Update, and in just a moment, we'll introduce you to Dr. Marcelo Cavazos. Our agenda today are new quarantine guidelines that actually went into effect today, the 2021 legislative session, and what that means for all of us associated with the district. We'll have information on the voter approval tax rate election, some challenges that are coming up in the new year, information on the annual What's Your Big Idea contest, and we're going to end with some heartfelt stories of how you helped others during this holiday season. As always, Dr. Marcelo Cavazos joins us to answer all the questions of the day. Dr. Cavazos, I know you wanted to start today with a very sincere thank you.
That's right, Anita, and a sincere thank you to all our staff, all our individuals that work in our school districts, our students and our parents. Every year is challenging and difficult, but this year has been even more so. And I recognize that, and I want to sincerely thank you for that. Just know that while we're closing this semester, we will have challenges in the spring. There's a light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccines and things like that, but we still have work to do, challenges, but for your flexibility and adaptability, I sincerely thank you.
Well, let's get started today, Dr. Cavazos, with the new procedure that took place this morning. We're changing the timelines on quarantine. Walk us through that, why the decision was made, and how it impacts us in the district.
Indeed. So the CDC recommended a shortened timeline for quarantine of anyone who's been a close contact. We've worked closely with our county health department to make sure that the CDC recommendations and the county guidelines were aligned. And so we will today begin implementing the revised guidelines that includes a shortened quarantine period. So it moves from 14 days to 10 days for close contact. And that's important because we have a number of people that we have to inform that they are now in quarantine, both staff and students, but it's been shortened to 10 days.
Now, I'll ask the million-dollar question to save you from answering a lot of email. If I'm in quarantine now and I'm almost done with my 10 days or I'm past that, can I come back to work?
So the short answer is no. If you're under quarantine now, you must serve the 14 days of quarantine. This is for new close contacts that are having to be quarantined going forward. We received that clarification as well.
I was reading the guidance last night, and it talked about in some cases that we could offer a 7-day quarantine with a particular test. Are we going to adopt that strategy?
So yes, so there is a 7-day option as well with certain testing and protocol. It's for critical infrastructure workers such as police officers and firefighters. So it doesn't really apply to Arlington ISD. If there is a rare case where we need to think about using that tool, we will. But for the most part, it doesn't apply to us.
So we're looking at 10 days without symptoms, right? 10 days, no symptoms. Do I have to take a test in order to return to work?
So you don't have to take a test in order to return to work. However, if within that 10-day period you fall ill or you have symptoms, we do encourage you to take a test.
So let's turn our attention now to that legislative agenda. There's a lot on it, and there's a lot riding on it as well. One of the conversations that I've heard you talk about and others is this concept of hold harmless. What does that mean, and what does it mean for folks invested in the district?
That's correct. So hold harmless is for us to be able to remain stable in our funding. That's how it's being applied. So we know that Texas public schools are funded by attendance and enrollment. And so this year, the enrollment and the attendance have dropped, not only for Arlington ISD, but for all schools, in essence. And so hold harmless means that the state would continue the funding using previous year's attendance and enrollment, not this year's, because this year saw that drop. And so that's what we are advocating for. And so the first 6 weeks of school, the state committed that they would, for the first 6 weeks, hold us harmless or use previous attendance and enrollment, which helps. Then they extended that to the first semester. So the entire first semester, we're using attendance and enrollment of previous years, not the pandemic year. But that ends. And so second semester, that hold harmless goes away. And so what we're asking is that that hold harmless be extended for the entire year. And quite frankly, as soon as that hold harmless is extended for the whole year, then we have more of a guarantee that our funding will continue at the same levels. if that hold harmless goes away or is not extended, then the funding begins to be impacted, and the impact of enrollment and attendance begins to be felt in the spring semester. So that's a big challenge, and that's something that our board, myself and others, are actively advocating for it to be held harmless throughout the entire year.
And will really help us, as you said, with stability, especially during very challenging times. Also in that agenda, there's conversations around pre-K. And we were so excited last spring to learn that we would have full-day pre-K for the first time. And of course, we've had some challenges with full-day pre-K execution this year. What's the hope with the new legislative agenda around pre-K?
Well, the hope is that full-day pre-kinder funding will continue, that it'll continue, and for Arlington ISD, this was our first year for full-day pre-kinder, and certainly not the way ideally it would start. But we want that funding to continue, but also at some point for the consideration to be for universal pre-K, and that is to serve all students that are of age and not just eligible students, but that all 4-year-olds will be able to be served. And again, that's something that we can continue to advocate for that to happen throughout our state.
I know there are other big topic areas that are on that legislative agenda, and we'll be talking about those in subsequent updates, but there are topics like school finance and school safety, mental health, some of these very important topics that you'll be addressing. When does this process start in 2021?
So the session begins in January, and it goes through the entire semester, really. And that is when they consider many of these things, including our hold harmless and our funding and things like that, full day pre-kinder, et cetera, the things you've mentioned. So it'll be active in the spring semester with legislation.
In our last district update, we had just announced the passage of the voter approval tax rate election. And we were very excited about that because it opens up avenues for us to increase salaries, be more competitive with staff compensation and things of that nature. Tell us a little bit more about that and some of the challenges that you see as we roll into the spring.
Yeah, so as we talked about earlier, the VATRE was important because it allows us to be competitive with our salaries and our compensation for all employees. And so that planning begins in the spring with our budgeting process. So we'll be looking in the spring for next year raises and things like that, competitive analysis across districts in the Metroplex to make sure that we are continuing to be there. We know that the board passed a 4% increase in the summer plus adjustments in some cases. And so that was a very bold move and really set us up on the top 10 in many of those rankings, which was important. The commitment is to continue that and continue that as we move forward throughout the years. And so this is for compensation and for salaries. And so sometimes you hear about one-time kind of compensation or one-time payments and things like that. The investment is really on longer-term salaries because when you invest in raises and things like that, that becomes permanent in individuals' pay as well as part of their retirement benefits and things like that. And we want to make sure we support those things so it doesn't come once and then goes away and things like that. So we'll be working on that in the spring. A lot of work to be done there, but I do thank our community for supporting the VATRE so we can have that tool to address and to stay competitive in our salaries on positions across the district, teachers and every employee.
Yeah, in a climate that is so uncertain right now, it's good to know that we have the resources there. And appreciative of the fact that our Board of Trustees and you and the leadership put an effort behind making sure that our salaries are competitive. So very exciting news soon to come in the spring. We have another exciting project coming too in January, and that's the What's Your Big Idea competition. I can't think of a better year than to go to our kids and say, give us some really great ideas on problem solving. Tell us about this project.
So this is an excellent project. We do it in partnership with our Chamber of Commerce here in Arlington, and I want to thank them because they sponsor this as well. And so our students are given the opportunity to submit ideas that they come up with to help either everyday problems become solved or big problems become addressed and solved. So if any year, like you said, this is the year to come up with big ideas and to how to address some of our biggest challenges. And we always look forward to seeing that from our students because they're so creative and so innovative. And so we do have an awards ceremony for that historically. I think this is our 15th year of doing it. And so Not sure how it'll be in the spring because we had to go virtual last year, but I do encourage students to participate in that and get a chance to be creative with your ideas and how to solve some of our most challenges during this time.
That got Shark Tank for young people.
That's right.
Very exciting. I went the first year to the College Park Center, and it was insane. It was like going to a rock concert. People were cheering, families were, just so excited, bragging rights for everybody as a part of that event. So we're going to have all the information available for What's Your Big Idea. You guys can just go down into the description box, find the link over to the Arlington Chamber of Commerce who's sponsoring the event, and get everything you need to make sure your kids are signed up and ready to roll by January 21st. So Dr. Cavazos, one thing that I know just from speaking with you is how important a culture of giving is for students, for staff. We saw a culture of giving this holiday season. Tell us about some of the ways Arlington ISD students, staff, and parents have helped other community members.
That's right, Anita, and that's one thing that makes Arlington ISD so special because we have so many generous families, students, and community and staff. So I'd like to thank you all for your generosity this holiday season. Whether it was donating cans for a student-led food drive at Mission Arlington at Thanksgiving, or buying toys and clothes for Mission Arlington's annual Christmas drive, you've stepped up to help others this year. That was also apparent this weekend with PDC as the Toys for Tots collection was a huge success. You helped spearhead an effort that brought in more than 5,000 toys at collection boxes throughout the entire district. You also helped contribute more than $10,000 to this effort. Thank you again, as we know many of these donations and this support goes right back to our families that we serve here in Arlington ISD, and thank you for your generosity year in and year out.
Dr. Cavazos, you mentioned in the beginning that we definitely have faced some hard days. Did you also say there are some hard days ahead? What words of motivation do you have for us to keep us going?
Yeah, so I want to encourage everyone to take this time to rest, to rejuvenate, but also to be hopeful. Take some time to reflect on the joy of every day that we have. And we have each other. And we've been through hard times before. We certainly are going through hard times now. And we've done it because we stick together. And Arlington ISD family is special. And there's a lot of love throughout our entire community. And a reflection on that, take your time to get some rest and stay healthy.
And thank you, Dr. Cavazos. On behalf of all of us, under your guidance, we really appreciate you, and we want you to have a joyful and a restful holiday too. I have to say, since March, I literally do not think that I have seen you take a single day off. I know you don't like to talk about that with the public, so you'll just have to bear with me because I think it's important that we recognize how hard you have worked to lead us with dedication and with dignity, and we're very grateful for that. So as we get ready to roll out for the holidays, we want to wish you the very best, and the same to all of you, because even though we're going to be away on winter break, we're still going to be coming to you from our Facebook page. We'll be posting any important updates, and we have a very special series saluting our holiday health heroes, so don't miss that. Dr. Cavazos, thank you again.
Thank you,
and
Anita.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Anita.
And we say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, and everything else to all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful winter break.